Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Talking Brazil Ball, the podcast all about Brazilian football. We're back after a couple of weeks' break to take stock of the Brasileirão at the latest juncture. The Club World Cup is ongoing, and as a result, there are no games for the time being. So we're going to take a quick look and see where we're at with the table, what's been going on with the Club World Cup, and anything else to note. So I'm here. As always, I'm James. I'm getting used to that musical. I don't know whether the music was going to come back in.
Yeah, no, sorry, James. I'll just interlude before you introduce myself. And no, it's not on at the moment. So we do have the jingles, but obviously we're not doing jingles today, James. But there also is something else that we need to discuss as well, which is the award, giving out the awards for May, which we didn't get a chance to do just yet. The last episode, like I said, a few weeks off we've had, haven't we? The last episode was before the start of June. So this is the first show of June. So yeah, I'm sure you can remember who they were.
Well, I don't think we did discuss it. I know the manager will be. I don't know about the player, but we can have a look, can't we? And quickly.
I think the player is,
probably the same team, I think, isn't it?
It is, I think, yeah.
We can just give it him anyway. But yeah, welcome back, everybody, and welcome back to us, George. We've been away, haven't we? You look like you've caught the sun a little. What have you been
yes. Come by to you, James, and hello to everybody watching and listening on, the various places you can get this. And yeah, obviously we were away. We were away together, weren't we, James, in Spain last week, and then the weather's continued. I think it's actually hotter than it is in Spain here today. It's been scorching, and
it's at least the same, isn't it? It's at least the same.
I think that day last Thursday, wasn't it? Was the hottest for you and I there. So I think it's similar temperatures here today on the Thursday afterwards. So yeah, it's good to be back though, James. I think we're both a little bit out of practice here after 2.5 weeks off, really. So need to get back in the swing. And obviously, Brasileirão is not on till the 13th of July, is it now? The 12th of July. So a little bit of a break, but it's good to take stock of things, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. It's we did miss, I think, one full game week, which was, I think, game week 11. And then there were 6 games as well that were played last week and before the break, obviously. So as we have alluded to there, Botafogo, Fluminense, Palmeiras, and Flamengo are away at the Club World Cup. So as a result of that, the whole season is paused, which we hadn't actually anticipated. But there you go, that's what's happened. So yeah, like you said, we are a bit out of practice. It doesn't help that there aren't any games really to go into. We're not going to have a normal show today, but we're still going to try and bring you something. So before we do that, George, why don't you just run down that last round of fixtures that we missed? I think there were 6 games, weren't there? And a big one for us, actually, wasn't it? It was Inter Gallo, or Gallo Inter in that time, and another bad result for Inter. So we'll maybe touch on that just after you've run down the results of those games.
Yeah, it'd be a pleasure of mine, James. So just those 6, like you said, last Thursday, Friday. So it was RB Bragantino 0, Bahia 3, Vitória 0, Cruzeiro 0, Fortaleza 2, Santos 3. A big win for Santos there, James. Into Friday the 13th, then Grêmio 1, Corinthians 1. Up the Galo 2-0 over the Old Boys into James, and then Sao Paulo 1, Vasco 3, which was a really good result for Vasco there, and for their supporters. So a great win for Denise there over Zubeldia.
Yeah, Denise has had a bit of a mixed start, but certainly he's kind of done enough so far to suggest that he might be a good appointment after all at Vasco. But yeah, like you said there, George, another kind of Gallo Inter game. I don't know. I haven't really been keeping track of. I don't remember what it was last year. Actually, I think Inter won. I think it might have been a draw, the other one possibly. But anyway, this time Gallo took the. I mean, bragging rights are probably the wrong word. It doesn't mean that much in the greater scheme of things. But for us, on Talking Brazil Ball, it is obviously the big one, the Classico. And another bad result for Inter. I mean, we'll start with Gallo doing all right now under Kuka. It's kind of steadied a little bit, hasn't it? And the kind of slowly, I mean, quietly, they've got themselves 4 points off the top.
Yeah, I mean, look, James, there was a little bit of a, is he the right choice here, Kuka, initially when the season started? Had a really poor start, really, lots of wobbles. But now, unbeaten in 8 games, James, stretching back to early May now. So they're unbeaten actually in the league for a little bit of a longer stretch than that, to be honest. And they're really doing quite well now. And 4 points off the top, like you said, and the Kuka is very much definitely the man here for Gallo, doing an exceptional job as a lot of people thought he would. Really, he's got stock. He won the league with Gallo, of course, not too long ago as it was. I don't think, and yeah, they're just going nicely, and it was a great result on Friday. In a 3 weeks or so, they've got Bahia away. Sorry, so hopefully they can go into that one and get another positive result. I'm just looking here. The what is it? 5, 6. I think they're unbeaten in something like 8. Yeah, something like 8 league games as well. So it's going quite nicely for Kuka there now, and 2-0. Like you said, your boys Inter not doing very well at all. I think both of us are quite surprised that Super Mercado he hasn't actually lost his job, to be honest, because they are right down at the bottom. Now, I know we're going to touch fully on the table in just a moment, perhaps, but they're in the relegation zone now, James. So how are you feeling about their season and the start?
Yeah, very, very bad. I mean, it's not just that they're in the relegation zone. It's 2 wins out of 12 in the Brasileirão. I mean, that's unbelievably bad. That I actually didn't realize it had been that bad, because they've kind of drawn a fair amount. They've drawn 5, which fine, but you've won 2 out of 12. I mean, that's really, really bad going, and it does have a fairly kind of similar flavour to Flu's start last year, in my opinion. I think they had a similar kind of, probably similar points total after 12 games, 11 points. And, obviously they pulled themselves out in the end, but it took a long, long while, and they were down in those places, the bottom kind of 6 throughout the whole season, really. And you just wonder with Inter whether it's going to be similar. I mean, Mercado, like you said, it is a bit of a surprise. He's kept his job so far, but I think the writing is on the wall. I really do. I mean, unless he does so. I mean, last year he went on a run where they won 8 or 9 in a row. When they were in a similarly bad run of form, they weren't as low as they are now. But when Mercado first took over, they weren't in a great run of form. They then went on a really good run, on a good winning run, and put themselves right up near the top of the table. If they could do something similar, I think he'd be fine. But I think that's what it's going to take to keep his job now. It feels to me like it's just biding time. Maybe they're trying to line up the right candidate. I'm not sure. But either way, you can't be 17th Inter with a third of the season gone. It's simply not good enough. And it's a shame. All listeners, the regular listeners, will know how highly we rate Mercado. And I think he put himself kind of in the spotlight, really, with the job he's done at Inter up until the start of this season. Now, it remains to be seen. I'm sure he'll get another job pretty quickly on the back of whether he is sacked. But, he'd had probably been looking at a better job a few months ago than he is now. So, yeah, it feels like it's a matter of time, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does, James. If they're not picking up anything from the next game, really, I think they really do. Yeah, I think the writing is on the wall. It's a massive game, to be fair. The next one is against Vitória, who are just above the relegation zone, same points as Inter. So it's a shame. I like Mercado, but I do feel like he is He's right on the edge. And you were right. I think they're doing a lot better than Fluminense were at this stage last season, to be honest with you, James. Fluminense had 6 points, after 12 games. So and they managed to get out of it. So you can still do it. It's still early doors, really, in the season. I don't think they're going to get sacked, but like you said, are they just biding the time and another defeat and then pull the trigger on Ricardo, line somebody up, later on in the day, maybe they can do. They're waiting on that. I don't know, but hopefully for you and for other Inter fans and for the team itself and Ricardo himself, hopefully they really do pick up, because you can't have a team like that going down as well, James. And also Fortaleza are down there as well, and I noticed they are still keeping with their man Voivoda as well. So that is interesting to know also.
Yeah, we'll touch on the relegation battle in a bit. Just on Inter, the next 4 games are really big. They've got 2 home games back to back against Vittoria and then Ceará. They've then got Santos away and then Vasco at home. So that's 4 very, very winnable games for Inter. If they can win all 4 of those, I think Mercado will be fine. If they don't and they lose a couple, I think he'll be gone. Anyway, that's enough about Gallo and Inter, definitely from my point of view. So let's talk over the Club World Cup, George. I mean, I don't know how much attention people have been paying to this tournament. Personally, I think it's a waste of time. I think nobody needs more club football at this stage. There shouldn't be any club football throughout June, in my opinion. It's not a month for club football, and the attendances have been generally poor in America, obviously, where it's being held. But we do have 4 of our favourite teams in action. You've got your shirt of one of them on there. So,
yes.
What have you made of the Club World Cup so far? And I don't know if you've got the results to hand of the Brazilian team so far. There is one going on as we record, which has actually been paused for, I believe, for weather conditions. Palmeiras against the Egyptian side, Al Ahly. Palmeiras are 2-0 up as things stand. But yeah, each of them have played 1 game before them. Do you have the results of those to hand, Joe?
Yeah, I do, James. Actually, yeah. And Palmeiras, you said they're currently 2-0 up. It has been interrupted for the hot weather conditions. We talk about it being hot here, James. I think it's really, really roasting hot where they're playing. I don't know where they're playing that one, actually, but
might be Orlando, possibly.
It's New Jersey.
Oh, is it? Flipping it.
Yeah, like you said, Anthony Taylor, the English referee, the Premier League referee, is the referee for that one. So I don't think he had that one potentially on his bingo card, did he? When he started the season, refereeing those sort of teams in America. But there you go. So yeah. Anyway, Palmeiras there, the 2-0 up currently against Al Ahly. And that's been interrupted. They did draw. A really good result, James, for them against Porto in their opening game. That's a good result in my book. The other team, one of the other teams in Group B, Botafogo, they host PSG actually in the early hours of tomorrow morning, and that is in California. So that's going to be roasting hot. But they won their first game, a 2-1 win against Seattle Sounders, the American side, Cunha and Igor Jesus got the second goal for them. I don't think he's seemingly not moving to Nottingham Forest. I don't know what the score is on that particular front, James, but if he's there, he doesn't look like he potentially might be going anywhere near the Premier League just yet. But in Group C, there isn't actually any of our own Brazilian sides. You'd have to look at Group D for Flamengo. In Chelsea's group, they play Chelsea tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock in Philadelphia. And they won their first game, James, 2-0 against Esperance. And I think they're Mexican, are they? Tunisian, sorry.
What's going on there? What's all that crashing noise?
It was my phone just fell off. Yeah. So they won 2-0 against Esperance, Tunisian side. Diarra he got one of the goals in that game. And then Fluminense, they drew another good result with a European side, James. It was 0-0 against BVB, Borussia Dortmund, in which one Joe Bellingham, I think, made his debut for Dortmund. So it was 0-0 they played the game in New Jersey as well. They play up against Ulsan on Saturday. So there you go.
Yeah, so two draws, 2-0 draws with Brazilian sides up against good European teams, and then a win for Flamengo, a win for Botafogo. Interesting, Botafogo against PSG. That's obviously the Copa Libertadores holders against the Champions League holders. So that's what you might ordinarily have as a final in this competition, but obviously it isn't going to be in this one. But that will certainly be one to watch out for, really. So I think the overall kind of message is from the Brazilian team so far that they've very much held their own against good teams. Obviously Seattle Sounders, hard to know really the level of them. But the other sides have done pretty well. And Esperance, obviously not probably anything to write home about, but I think the kind of general takeaway is that Brazilian football is having a good moment, really, and kind of giving a good account of itself on a very big kind of ish stage, on a stage against teams. And the European teams are putting out good sides. Obviously, it's a bit different levels of the season. As we know, the Brazilian teams are now into the flow of the season. The European teams may be a bit tired, maybe just kind of didn't really need this. And by all accounts, Flu actually dominated Dortmund in that game and were unlucky not to win it. So I think, from what we've seen so far, George, which of the sides do you think will be going the furthest? And do you think these matches are going to be of benefit to them kind of taking into the rest of the Serie A season?
You know what, James? I think there will be a benefit to the Brazilian sides because it will give them a level that they're not really used to, and it'll give them confidence. I mean, look at that game. Like you said just a moment ago, PSG against Fogo is, like you said, the winners of the Champions League against the winners of the Libertadores, and that's as high as you can go in South American football. So, that to put them up against them, it's quite a special moment for Botafogo, and for PSG, it might not mean much. For the European sides, like you said, they're on. They'll be itching to go on holiday. To be honest, I know it's you got to work. You still got to get paid. You're working, but you know what I mean. They'll want a holiday before the season really pre-season kicks off again, and it's all year round football. I'm with you. I don't think it's really needed, but for the Brazilian sides and teams of the similar ilk, River Plate are in there, and Monterrey, you could say, potentially are in the similar kind of boat as the Brazilian sides as well. Really pitting the wits against some top European sides who are putting out good sides. Borussia Dortmund are still a decent side. I know they've wavered a little bit over recent times, but Porto as well. I know Mugs are they in Portugal. That would have been a great result for Palmeiras as well. So just gives them that little bit of confidence going into going back into the Serie A season. And to answer your question, James, about who do I think can go the furthest, it's an interesting question. I think that. I think Flamengo, looking at the groups, I think Flamengo will probably go the furthest. I think the other three, actually, Fluminense might get out of the group, but I don't think they'll go further than the first knockout stage. I think that Flamengo might do okay. I think the other two, Palmeiras and Fogo, definitely will probably end up in the out of the competition, to be honest. Even though, I know Palmeiras are winning currently, but Inter Miami's in a strange sort of game for them. I know they drew with the Egyptian side in the first one, but so it tells me Palmeiras, I'm not sure. You've got to focus on the league, really. It's right in the middle of the season or towards the start of the season. And as much as they give them confidence, it might give them a little bit of like, we need to go back to league form and concentrate on that a bit. So they might be itching to get out of it. I don't know really. They might be itching to get out of it and get back on with the league.
Well, I think the two teams that might benefit the most are maybe Cruzeiro and Red Bull Bragantino, who are in there with Flamengo and Palmeiras at the minute as a kind of title challengers, and Bahia out of nowhere are doing really well. But yeah, it's interesting to see for sure. I mean, PSG have been steamrolling everybody. They beat Atletico Madrid 4-0 in the first game.
Yeah.
They're just on an absolute roll. So it could be a bloodbath for Fogo, but if they can hold their own, they will take confidence, I'm sure. But we'll be keeping an eye on that. Maybe next week we'll have some more fixtures as well to go down.
I mean, I'm not sure of when the finals on the 13th of July, James. So that's actually when a lot of Serie A games are starting again, isn't it? So, but I'm with you. I think it's just a bit messy, and I must admit I've not watched a game. To be honest, I found it difficult to get the vigor to watch it, really.
Yeah, I saw a bit of the Real Madrid Al Hilal game last night, just mainly to see how bad Trent was playing, and the answer for that was pretty bad actually. So they got a draw in the end, a decent result for Al Hilal. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on that and bring everybody up to date. But now, George, let's move on. More important matters. The Brasileirão, of course, we haven't really touched on it since those last 16 games, really, full round, another half round, and it has left the table in an interesting looking way. So before we just have a bit of a stock take of the season so far, why don't you just run down that table and let us know what's been going on? There's some very interesting positions, as we mentioned, Inter, but there's a couple more really that are really catching the eye there.
Yeah, definitely, James. It'd be a pleasure of mine, and it is looking a little bit different, isn't it, since we last spoke. The first is Flamengo on 24. Also on 24 is second is Cruzeiro. Third is RB Bragantino on 23. Fourth is Palmeiras on 22. Fifth is Bahia on 21. Sixth, Fluminense on 20. Seventh is Galo on 20 as well. Eighth is Fogo on 18. Ninth, Mirassol on 17. 10th, Corinthians on 16. 11th is Grêmio on 16. 12th is Ceará on 15. 13th place, Vasco on 13. 14th is Sao Paulo on 12. 15th is Santos on 11. 16th, Vitória also on 11. Into the relegation zone, James Inter in 17th on 11. 18th is Fortaleza on 10. 19th is Juventude on 8. And propping it up is 20th position, Sport Recife on 3 points.
Yep, so very, very interesting table, quite tight, really. There's the points kind of go down by 1 point per couple of places. But let's start at the top. Let's just have a look at that kind of title race, because when we left it, Palmeiras were kind of looked like they were going to run away with it. Then they kind of dipped. Red Bull Bragantino missed a chance to go top. Cruzeiro have been ticking along, but it's Flamengo who kind of end this period as top of the table. Cruzeiro are right there with them, and just after our last show, Cruzeiro missed the chance to go top, drew 0-0 with Vitória, which leaves them in second place. So what's your kind of take, George, to take a temperature of that title race? With, like I said, about a third of the season gone. Who's your favourite at the minute, and what do you kind of see happening from here?
Well, my favourite hasn't changed from the season starting, James, and before the season started as well. For me, Flamengo, they look too strong for my opinion. I just think they have the odd silly result in them, don't they? But they also have the potential to really put teams to the sword, and they did do that. In the last Serie A outing, a 5-0 win on the 1st of June against Fortaleza. They beat Palmeiras in that massive game at the end of May as well. So they've really come good. They do have, like I said, a bit of a silly result in them, but I think they have the squad. I think they have the balance in the squad. I think Felipe Luis has them playing very well. He knows the team very well. And, they've got players like, we mentioned Di Arraseta. He scored again in the Club World Cup the other day. He's scoring goals for fun in the Brasileirão. You've got players like him who didn't potentially show up the way they should have done last season, that are now making the difference for them. And I think they for me, they are the team to beat. Really, it's as simple as that for me. Really, even though Cruzeiro are running them incredibly close, Cruzeiro have done fantastically well. The level on points with them, albeit the goal difference is substantially lower even at this stage of the season. But for me, Flamengo are still the favourites.
Yeah, I think most people would probably go along with that, especially given Palmeiras have lost the last two, of course, two challenges against Flamengo and Cruzeiro. And what about Cruzeiro, George? I think let's look at Cruzeiro slightly more deeply, and I think now would probably be a good time to hand out those awards. The manager of the month and the player of the month, they're both probably unsurprisingly for anybody who's been following closely, are going to go to Cruzeiro players and managers. The manager, of course, Leonardo Jardim, we haven't spoken about loads and loads, but what a job he's doing. I mean, they've really put together a great run of form. I mean, I think the last time we spoke about them, maybe not the last time, but we certainly looked at the Belo Horizonte derby, which was 0-0. But that was a good result for them, really, and they've kind of weathered quite a few difficult games, and they're up there in second. And yeah, Jardim, I think deservedly so, is our manager of the month, isn't he?
Yeah, manager of the month, James. You can't argue with it at all. Jardim's done a fantastic job. They're literally joint top, aren't they? It's only second on goal difference. They're unbeaten, James, in the month of May. That's 6 league games, but they're unbeaten as well in the cup competitions, the Sudamericana as well, the Copa do Brasil. They've got through, I think, as well in that space in the month of May as well. So they're on a real roll. And Jardim, we know that they recruited well in the summer. The likes of Barbosa coming in and players like that, who he's added, a little bit to the squad as well. But I think Jardim, the plaudits go out to him really, and they don't concede many goals either, but they've had some really, really impressive wins in the month of May as well, including Flamengo. They beat, you mentioned that 0-0 with Galo, but they beat Palmeiras as well. Actually, that was just gone into June, but still, the fact is that Jardim has them playing in extreme confidence, and you wonder, can they sustain it, James? Can they sustain it all the way through? I don't think they will personally, but you can't argue at this moment in time. Jardim deserves that Manager of the Month award for sure, and I don't think it'll be the first. I don't think it'll be the last one we give to him between now and December either.
No, I'd be surprised if it was. I mean, he looked like a really good appointment at the time. Obviously, plenty of pedigree in Europe. Hadn't been around the conversations in Europe for jobs for a little while, having gone out to the Middle East, but looked like a smart appointment, and he's really, really proven that way. It can go either way when a European manager comes in. We've seen that already at the time we've been following the league. So he deserves a heck of a lot of credit for, bringing in those players, but that's not always a given. They'll perform as well. When you change a few players, it can also go the other way for you. So I think the way he's gone about it, everything has been really, really good. And like you mentioned there, Gabigol, he needs a strong manager, I think, to get the best out of him. And Jardim has been kind of performing on that front as well. So yeah, a very well-deserving Manager of the Month. And like you said, I'm sure we'll be mentioning him in those conversations again as well. And also, while we're on Cruzeiro, George, I mean, you mentioned a few of the good results there. They've been powered by our Player of the Month, which is going to be Caio Jorge. And anybody who's, again, been keeping a track of the results and the performances, I think, won't have any kind of arguments with that. He's got 3 goals in 4 games for Cruzeiro across the month and an assist as well in that. You mentioned that result against Palmeiras. He got 2 in that. That was obviously in June, though. But throughout May, he's been, I mean, rivaled again by the April Player of the Month, Georgian de Araceta. The league's outstanding player, really, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, Caio Jorge, James, has been absolutely brilliant. I mean, he's scoring braces all over the place. He's really starting to become a figurehead for Cruzeiro, and still only young. He's only 23. Like we know, he's had a little spurt in Italy, you know, in his youth, but you know, back in his native Brazil, and he's really come good since joining. I mean, we spoke about him briefly last season. I don't know if you remember, James, but you know, there was no other real contender for the Player of the Month this time. I know Diarra again. I think he'll be in the conversation for most of the months, the way that he's going. But I think Caio Jorge will be as well. He's had a fantastic month. I'm surprised, you know, that, you know, people aren't, you know, the chatter's not coming for him to go back to Europe, you know, having played at Juventus. You know, he will have been known to many a sort of top level scout, I would have said. I'm surprised he's not becoming in the conversations just yet for a move to Europe, but that is still on the cards, I would say, if he keeps going like this at only 23 years old. So, yeah, he's a talent, that is for sure.
Yeah, I think maybe this summer might just come a little too soon in terms of there's no games still now. But you never know. I mean, a lot of teams are looking for a striker, and that can have a knock-on effect where some club, like, you know, a club like Sporting, for example, we know that Guy Corres is probably leaving Sporting. They'll need a new striker to replace him. It would be a very kind of Sporting move to go and get a player like Caio Jorge and have him hit the ground running and do well there, then sell him on for big bucks as well. So that kind of striker market could work in his favour still. It wouldn't be a massive surprise to see something like that, but I feel like it might be more of a January one, maybe next year, if he can carry on doing well. But for the time being, he's been brilliant, and he is a deserving player of the month for our award this time. I think Pablo Vegetti did well as well, a few goals, and those three between them, Diarra, Jorge and Vegetti, are really setting the standard already in terms of goals scored. They've got 9, 8 and 8 respectively, and they're the three top scorers in the league. Pedro Raul is up there as well for Ceará, who we did mention at the start of the season. So yeah, well done to Caio Jorge. Let's see if he can keep that up. If he can keep it up, that'll play a big part in whether Cruzeiro can keep up their form as well. But we'll have to just wait and see how that pans out. Red Bull Bragantino also up there, George. I mean, we didn't expect that at the start of the season, but I think it's worth mentioning that they lost last week, as you mentioned, 3-0 against Bahia, and that was a big result because it put Bahia up to 5th, just 2 points behind Red Bull Bragantino, 3 points off the top. I mean, we've spoken at length about Rogério Ceni, especially last season. It looked like this season might have, well, it did start in a more disappointing fashion, but I mean, they've come back in really kind of roaring fashion, haven't they?
Oh, they've been absolutely fantastic, James. You know, we did speak about them and Ceni being a little bit under pressure, you know, towards the start of the season, but yeah, they've been absolutely fantastic. Obviously, as well, playing in the Libertadores as well, which I know they did lose in the last game against your team Inter, didn't they, James? So there's a little bit of, you know, shining light for Mercado there with the Libertadores. But yeah, they've really put the cat among the pigeons here, sitting in 5th. You know, one man to keep an eye on is Eric Pulgar, who has had a good, you know, start to the season. James, 3 goals. After coming into the team from Ceará, so he's definitely one to keep an eye on as we go forward into the season. You know, you know what I'm like. I do like Ceni. He's you know, it's good to see him doing well, and you know, he's really experienced, to be fair, as a coach, isn't he, in Brazil, and he knows what the league holds. So, you know, it's good to see that they're balancing the sort of Libertadores and the league quite well, really, to be fair. I didn't expect them, I don't think, to do quite as well as this. Plenty of time for it to change, but will it do? I'm not so sure. I think they're on the way up here, really.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, we've spoken a lot of times about the City Group link and how that can be beneficial to them in the long run, but you need to have kind of a good level of success to start really seeing the benefit of that. And you know, they've kind of started to do that. And Ceni, I thought he might be in trouble at the end of the season. I thought it might have been a case of he's run his course, really. It's about time for everybody if there was a little bit of a change. And I thought one or two of the other bigger clubs might be keeping an eye on what he's doing, and I'm sure that they will be now as well. And I do wonder whether somebody like Inter might be thinking, if Mercado does go, maybe Seni would be a manager who they might be starting to look at, really, in terms of a replacement. So yeah, really, really good from Bahia. And we'll wait and see whether they can better last year. They came 8th last year, so I expect they might be in and around that position again. Moving down the table, George, Flu doing kind of better, obviously. It's been a decent kind of start for Renato Gaucho, and they'll be buoyed by the Club World Cup, as we've mentioned. Gallo there we spoke about are up into 7th. Fogo, what do you think about Fogo? It's been obviously a mixed start for Renato Paiva. We touched on the Club World Cup fixtures and how they might be helping them as well. But what do you make of their start in terms of 8th place at the minute, 6 off the top? It's certainly a lot brighter than it had looked like it might go, didn't it, at the start of the season?
Oh, for sure, James. I mean, just before I give my thoughts completely on Fogo. I think we skirted over Flu there, but I think now I'm just giving this to the man himself. But of course, we do a goal of the month competition, don't we, as well? And I don't know if you remember quite, James, the last goal of the round. Of course, the goal of the round awards go into the goal of the month award. And this was a fantastic goal against Vasco, and it was Guga, the right back, and he absolutely slammed it in. And for me, this one was just the goal of the month here. It was an unbelievable effort. There was Cuyabano, who had a really good goal as well in the month, actually, but that was quite a special goal. I think they won. They had a really heavy win over I think it was Inter, 4-0, and Cuyabano got a really nice goal. But I think Gugas might just nip it, and that would give him Fluminense both goal of the rounds, goal of the month awards in the first 2 months of the season, with Rene getting the first one in April. So, so just to give him that award before we go back on to Fogo, James. But Fogo, looking a lot better, isn't it? I think we both thought Paiva might go, but he's steadied the ship. And, the going into the Club World Cup, actually, in a little bit of a run of form. I know it's not, out of this world, but 3 wins in a row in all competitions leading up to the Club World Cup. So they'll be going in there. It'd be really important, I think, for Botafogo. And I imagine the chairman will be hamming this up for all that his life depends on it. But with it being in his home country as well, he'll be reveling in the whole thing and hoping that his lads can do a really good service to themselves and to his club. So they'll be taking it very, very seriously, I think. And and it started well for them. But in terms of league form, obviously since we did the last pod, they beat Ceará 3-2. They were 2-0 up in that game as well. So and then coming off the back of a 1-0 win over Santos, so it's 2 league wins in a row coming into the Club World Cup. So it's looking a lot brighter for Paiva. And whether they can go further than sort of upper mid table, I'm not so sure. I think the quality of the teams at the top 6 seem a little bit better than it did last season. So it might be difficult for them to break in. Certainly won't be winning it again, I don't think.
No, I mean, I don't think anybody would be expecting them to be winning it from where they are, but they can certainly make a push for that top 4, maybe. Mirassol up in 9th. I mean, that's been one of the stories of the season so far, really. 3 wins out of 4 for them. That they've really started to do well. I mean, they started the season pretty well and then kind of dipped slightly. But I mean, for the first ever season in Serie A, I mean, they've been really impressive. I mean, I know you've talked up the manager quite a bit, Rafael Guanez, something like that. And I mean, and he would have been in the running, I guess. In terms of a May results, they played 4 games. They won 2 of them, drew 1, lost 1. It's a pretty decent record for a club like Mirasol.
Yeah, I think Anayas, he could have been, and he could have been it in April, to be fair, as well. And I don't think he'll be far. I think he probably will get one between now and December as well. He's certainly going that way. But Mirasol have been fantastic, James, and it's been no small part to Ronaldo, the left back. He's got 6 goals. I know most of them seem to be penalties, but still, I mean, it's quite an incredible kind of. It's an incredible sort of stat that really, for a man he's obviously in his sort of twilight of his career. You could say 35 now, but they're relying on him to score goals, and he's doing it. 8 goal involvements in 11 games from left back. It's not bad at all, and he's really been the kind of the juggernaut for them to rise into mid-table. It's fantastic. Again, whether they can keep it up, who knows? But for the moment, they're really, really holding their own, and then some. They're really doing well.
Yeah, they are. They've. I mean, we saw similar last year, didn't we, with Kachuma, and we know that didn't end quite so well for them. So it will be, the hard stuff is still to come, really, but it's definitely been a good start for them. I mean, to that, I would probably say I'd be a little surprised if their best form isn't already behind them. But that sounds a bit pessimistic. But we know it doesn't always mean that they're going to carry on in the way that they are starting. But we got Palmeiras next. I mean, that's a big test. If they could get something there, maybe Palmeiras a little bit tired off the back of those games in the US, then we'll maybe start taking them a little more seriously. But yeah, certainly been a great season for them so far. Moving down, George has been a mid-table kind of lull for Corinthians, for Gremio, 2 big clubs. Obviously, had mixed results last season. Corinthians, I think, probably have a bit of a right to be a bit disappointed. They haven't really kicked on from what was an unbelievable end to last season. Under Ramon Diaz, as we know, he's been sacked since then. Dorival Jr.'s come in and kind of done okay. Gremio, of course, have also sacked their manager this season so far and are under Mano Menezes now. So 2 quite middle-of-the-road teams. Hard to get too excited about them, although, Corinthians, as we know, have got a lot of firepower. But what do you make of these 2? Do you think they are looking up or looking down?
I think they're just looking at the same thing, James, in the middle. I mean, you look across them, it's 4-4-4 all the way. 1-4 drawn, 4 lost, 4 for both teams. They actually played up against each other last Friday, didn't they, James, on Friday? It was a draw, 1-1. Actually, Mr. Bidon got one, didn't he, for Corinthians? We spoke about him at the very start of the season. And Braithwaite as well, who's still popping the goals in occasionally for Gremio. I think both of them probably going to end up mid-table. I think Corinthians will be disappointed with that. Dorival Jr. probably could do better than that. And I think the squad, and particularly like you said, you mentioned the firepower, Yuri Alberto, Memphis Depay, Garro as well. I know Yuri might be going. Who knows how true the transfer rumours are. But they need more. I keep saying it. They need more from these sort of players. They're not getting it at the moment. Not getting enough out of. I don't think Dorival Jr. is getting enough out of himself since he's been there. Really, haven't really done a great deal. And Sudamericana results haven't been great either. And it's starting to become where he might be coming under pressure. In terms of Mano Menezes, it's the same thing. They're just very middle of the road. Probably should be doing a little bit better, but it's not the end of the world. And I think Mano seems to be quite good at kind of keeping teams away from the drop zone. So maybe that's all Gremio want at this stage, because they had a really poor season last season, didn't they? But it ended up being not so bad in terms of league position.
Yeah, no, I mean, they had a fantastic run at the end. Oh, well, sorry, yeah, they did okay. Yeah, two very middle of the road teams there. What about Serie A, George? Just below them. I mean, they obviously in a similar position. What are you laughing at?
Never mind. I think you forgot what you were doing there for a second.
Well, not really. No, I know what I'm doing. Don't worry about that. We're talking about Serie A. Talk about. I'll get to
Yeah,
know.
that was a good
Yeah,
one. We can't play it anymore, but that was a cracking tune, that one. But yeah, Ciara.
Seattle doing all right. 15 points, 11 games played. A couple of losses to head into this little break, which will have disappointed them probably. And again, another team who feel like they should be in a better position than they are, in that they feel to have picked up some good results, but haven't really kind of done a lot with it. I mean, they're only 4 points outside the relegation zone. You look at teams like Inter, like Fortaleza, we'd expect them to get better. And if you're Ciara, you probably want to be a couple of points better off, although they do have that game in hand. So I think they obviously they've got to be satisfied with where they are at the moment. They'll have been planning for a relegation battle, but yeah. I mean, what do you play? Some it feels as though some of that early shine has probably been taken off just a little bit.
I'd have said so, James. Yeah, I think they seem to burst out the traps a little bit like Mirasol, but Mirasol, well, are 2 points are better off, aren't they? And there are quite a few places above them there in the table. But I think, yeah, they seem to burst on the scene. Raul was getting quite a few goals, wasn't he? And I know he's top scoring, isn't he, for them with 6 goals. 6 goals off 11 games for Pedro Raul is really, really good, isn't it, for a promoted side? But he got 2 in the loss over Botafogo the other week. So, yeah, I think they've lulled a bit, but I don't think they'll be too disheartened with it, really. They've got a really winnable. They're actually playing in the Nordesti, James, in a few weeks before they re-enter Serie A action. They've got a game against Sport Recife in the Coppa do Nordesti, and then they play up against Fortaleza. So that's a big game because Fortaleza are in the relegation zone, but we know, like you just said, they'll probably improve. Ciara need to get back on with a win, but I don't think, you know, lose a couple, win a couple, lose a couple more, lose 3 in a row, draw. They're kind of okay to sort of pitter along at that kind of form guide, really. I think they'll be okay with kind of a couple of losses and a win and they don't need that much form, is what I'm trying to say, for them to stay up. And that's all they need to do this time, really. They've given themselves a good base. They need to now, follow on with it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think they just need to keep things steady, not have one of those really terrible runs, which some sides in the division seem prone to. I think if it ended, and they were in 12th position, I think they'd be very happy with that in Sudamericana position. So Conde doing a decent job there. We've spoken about Vasco just a little there, and with Denise kind of coming in and kind of a bit hit and miss so far, but a big win for them against Sao Paulo last time out. Sao Paulo sit 14th, one place below them. It's been a really disappointing season for them, hasn't it? I mean, another club that just haven't really been able to push on from a decent end to last season. I mean, a decent season on the whole. They didn't win anything in the end, but they got the Libertadores. Zubeldia had a good first year in charge, but it feels he's another one who may be teaching on the edge just a little bit.
I'm surprised he's not been sacked, to be honest with you, James. But yeah, I don't know how long they're going to wait for this. Really, they've lost 3 in a row leading up to this break, and I'm just not sure. They don't play until the 17th of July again, James, away at RB Bragantino, and it's a must-win game for Zubeldia. They're not playing in anything else. It is that is the next game, and they do need a win. I'm surprised he hasn't gone. It's really disappointing because I thought they'd do quite well, but Vasco on the other hand, they destroyed them there. I mean, Sao Paulo got a 94th minute consolation. Both Ryan, who we've spoke about, and Vagetti were on the score sheets that day for Vasco. But yeah, Sao Paulo, they just need a win and then maybe just try and bump themselves up because it needs to happen soon. If they don't get one, I think you've got to say he's probably gone because they'll just slide towards a relegation zone and they don't want to be anywhere near that. You don't want another kind of Paranense kind of situation where you're a big side, you kind of riding the wave a little bit, and suddenly you're sort of sleepwalking yourself into a relegation spot. So, yeah, they need to act quickly if it starts to go with a couple of results to go against them on the return. I think they need to say goodbye to Zubeldia if it goes that way in the next couple, really.
Yeah, I don't know what's been going on really, but they've been really reliant on young players. How many this season?
Yeah.
Another one in this against Vasco scored Ryan Francisco, who I think we spoke about previously. There's Ferreira there as well, who Lucas Ferreira. There's Gustavo, is it, in the centre midfield? Sorry, Mateus Alves, I think, isn't it? In the midfield, who's been doing quite well as well. And the young player Luca Marquez, has been playing. It just seems to be, nothing really sticking for them, and it does need to go better. And Zubeldia, for sure, I think will be just looking over his shoulder once that play resumes, if they don't pull the trigger before, which they obviously they might do. But yeah, very disappointing indeed. Just below them, George, 15th place, Santos, I think worth mentioning. Massive result for them just before the break, of 3-2 win against Fortaleza. I mean, that lifted them above Fortaleza, out of the relegation zone, into 15th, and they've got 2 wins out of the last 3, and it feels like the season has finally really started for Santos, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It really does, James. They've had a really poor kind of, start to it, didn't they? I think there was a lot of noise about Neymar, of course, and his return and all, his injury worries, and it didn't quite happen for him just yet. And it turns out that maybe he's just there to look for another move into Europe, doesn't it? So, but as a team themselves, yeah, they've started to kind of pick up a little bit. Was an injury time winner against Fortaleza last time out, which gave them a 3-2 win. They were 2-0 up in that game, and Fortaleza came back, but ultimately Santos got the win. And yeah, 2 back-to-back wins is great for a promoted side. The difficult one to come back to, Flamengo at home, but Flamengo might be tired, like you said, from those America adventures, and so yeah, we'll see what Santos do. But ultimately, they've started to come good a little bit, and their manager, of course, is unproven. Kleber Xavier, so he's you can't say any fairer than that. 2 out of 2. I know that's not his only 2 games, but the last 2 games, 2 wins in 2, can't say any fairer than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they'll be hoping to start to rocket the table. They're not a million miles away. A couple of wins, and they'll be mid-table. And then we'll see where they go. And if Neymar can get back fit, I'm sure they'll fancy the chances of doing a little better as well. But he probably won't. I mean, he was supposed to be leaving by now, wasn't he, at the summertime? Yeah. But I don't know what's going to go on with that. I don't think anybody will have him. Moving down the table, Vitória doing all right, just keeping themselves above the relegation zone there in 16th. Couple of 0-0 draws heading into the break has kind of put them in a respectable position. And, I think if they can just stay up again, they'll be happy enough, having stayed up last year, and then maybe they can do a little better in the year after. Obviously, Carpini is your man, isn't he, George? We've spoken about Inter dropping down into the relegation zone. Obviously, very, very disappointing. And we wait on that news that Mercado has been relieved of his duties. I don't think it'll be a million miles, although it would be a shame when it does happen. But for myself, all the Colorados, I'm sure that, there's great frustration across the board, really, and that feels like an inevitability. Fortaleza, George, you mentioned that they're sticking with Voivoda, but for how long, really? They had such a good year last year. Couldn't, get the title, but that was never really going to happen. They still managed to finish up there in the top 4. They've just crumbled, haven't they? 4 losses in a row. They've got a big one next, obviously, the local derby against Serie A. If they win that, they'll go closer to Serie A. They still can't go above them. But if they lose that, that might be the one that breaks the straw that breaks the camel's back.
Yeah, I think this is probably do or die for Voivoda now. In it, and like you said, they've lost 4 in a row in the league.
Yeah,
No wins in 7 in all competitions. It's starting to look a little bit bleak. And after such a good result of season last season, Libertadores qualification, well up within the conversations for the league up until very late on in the season, they're going to be absolutely, very, very disappointed. And I would say that if they do lose to Serie, you wouldn't. It'd be fair enough, I think, if they would say, actually, you know what, it's not going to get better. Let's just go and then sack him, even though he's been there for a while. You can't have sentiment for me. You've got to say, for the betterment of the club, if it's going badly, it needs to be changed. And for me, it looking like it needs to be changed, to be fair. And I think it's a shame because he's done a great job, but they can't just keep going on and on losing these games. I mean, 3 of the last 4 games in all competitions, James, they haven't even scored a goal. So I think those 2 goals in the Santos game were penalties, weren't they, from Pikachu as well? So it's not good enough at this moment.
No, definitely not. Needs to get better. That Seattle one is a real powder keg fixture. I'm excited to see what happens in that one for sure and the fallout from it. Below them, Georgia, I mean, it's not looking great for either of these two. I mean, Sport Recife in bottom, I think it's best just to write off for the time being. There's not really anything positive to say from a Sport Recife point of view. But what's worth saying is that they are playing against Juventude next. So Juventude are 19th, Sport Recife 20th. So it is at Juventude. But Recife will never have a better chance, probably, or certainly not in the game so far, to pick up a win. I don't know. I feel like it does feel a bit like it's now on. I mean, they will win a game. I'm sure they will. But this would be a really good one to win. I mean, it put them they still wouldn't, move from the bottom of the table to be on 6 points. But it would at least give them that glimmer of hope. For Juventude, it's a real shame to see them down there. I didn't have great expectations, I have to say, for the season. Claudio Tencati has come in as the manager. I don't know exactly when he joined, actually, Tencati. Obviously, he was a Criciúma for a long time, wasn't he? But
we spoke about it a few weeks ago, James. He's had a few games, I think, as Tencati in charge. He's had 3 games so far. He's not won any of them, obviously. He came in at the end of May, I think.
Yeah, experienced manager, but I don't know. Juve, I feel like they're just going to sink, unfortunately. I know Bataya's been playing well. I've been getting a few goals. Mandaka as well, who caught the eye a bit last year, but it feels like they didn't strengthen enough, didn't do the business. Obviously, they lost Barbosa, who was on loan, who was a big player for them. And I unfortunately think that the season is only going one way for both Juve and Sport Recife.
Well, I have to agree, James. But again, we talked about no managerial change. There has been one at the very bottom of the table.
Oliveira's gone already, hasn't he?
I don't know when he did, but he's been replaced by Daniel Paulista, James. And get this, how many times do you think he has managed Sport Recife? It's not his first time, I'll put it that way.
How many times Sport Recife? Well, I don't know. 3. This is the 4th time, maybe then.
No, I mean, it's more that he actually played for Sport Recife as well. He played for them for 2 years. He's managed them. This is his 7th spell in charge.
Flipping heck. I mean,
he's only 43. Daniel Paulista.
It's too many. It's too many. I mean,
some of these are only like a month in charge as well. I don't know what happened.
Is he in temporary charge then?
No, well, it could be, actually, to be fair, but it doesn't say that, but it might be. Probably was, yeah. But still, he's had plenty of time to be, and then he's come from Remo at Serie B. They're currently sort of mid-table in Serie B, or upper mid-table. And he's come from them. He was only there since March, and now he's come to the top division to try and put some joy on the Sport Recife fans' faces, but I don't think it'll happen. Like you said, I think the writing is on the wall for both Juve and Sport. So, I think, there's not much more you can say about them, really.
No, I don't think so as well. I mean, we'll see. What just feels a bit pointless, doesn't it, at this stage, changing the manager? But obviously, there is still time if they can.
Well,
Get
it's
a
only 11, they've only played 11 games, James. You know, there's still plenty of time to
11
get on.
games, 2 managers sacked already. I mean, that's
No, doesn't bode well, does it?
no. And Oliveira, if he ever turns up again in Brazil, I think he's blacklisted. I think from any club there, he's
Yeah,
an absolute. Unfortunately, he's a loser as far as managers go.
yeah, it seems
So
to be, sadly for him.
he is. Right, George. Well, that kind of rounds up the table. That's a brief kind of pit stop of the season as it stands. I mean, obviously, there's a long, long way to go. We didn't envisage a bit of a break. I mean, we should have checked the calendar, but obviously, that's what's happened. I think we can come back next week, maybe, and just maybe take a look at the transfer window in a bit more depth and just go through some deals maybe that have happened, how some players are getting on who may have left earlier in the summer or in January. And maybe just have a look at that because we're still going to have to do, I think, 2 or 3 episodes without games. So we'll see. It might be that we take another pause for a couple of weeks, but we'll see. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's good to keep it going, James, isn't it? And good to keep in there with it all and keep in practice because you do you do sort of, you get out of practice of doing the pods. So maybe we do come on, like you said, look at the transfer window or look at the Club World Cup again and see how the 4 teams are doing in there. But yeah, let's see. But it's good to keep it just ticking over, really, if we can, I think.
Yeah, no reason we can't. We'll just have to fill the time, but I'm sure we will. Well, thank you everybody for listening, and everybody, enjoy the heat, enjoy that Brazilian flavour and the sunshine at the moment. Enjoy the rest of the Club World Cup, and we'll be keeping an eye on matters over there. And to see what the window, plenty to enjoy.
Yeah, plenty to enjoy, James. Everybody enjoy the weather and the football. What's more that you can do? Adios.
Adios.